CSRD JNU, and former President Nagi and Google Varsity of Nagi Ahmad. And I think we don't need any introduction of Professor Sudesh Nanya Madam. As we all know that her contribution to the geography has been immense. At the same time, I would like to extend my warm greetings and welcome to guest of honor, Dr. M. Mohan Babu, who just of Osmania University, Professor Anita Pandey, and Professor Seema Jalan, Professor P.P. Rekha Das Patnaik, and Professor Ashish Sarkar. And I would also like to welcome our department members who are actively, who are involved here. Professor Ray Balakishan and Professor Ashok Lonavar. And especially thank the intercessor, Professor D.P. Singh sir, Devant Singh sir, for making Osmania University as one of the part of his program, online program on founders and makers of modern geography. So may I now first ask the convener, to our Dr. Balkishan sir to give welcome address to this online meet on founders and what we call makers of modern geography. So Balkishan sir, are you there, sir? Hello.
Hello.
Hello, Balkishan sir, are you there, sir?
Hello. Hello. Hello.
Hello, Professor MS Gill. Hello.
Yes. MS Gill. So, good afternoon to all of you.
Good afternoon, sir.
So,
Sir, am I audible, sir?
Yeah, yes.
This is Srinagar, sir.
Now, okay.
Srinagar, sir might not have joined, I think so.
Hello.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Professor
Sir, Singh, sir.
Professor Balakishan Sahab has joined. He is here.
Yeah, he has joined.
Yes, sir. I am there, sir.
Yes, sir. Sir, Balkishan, sir, I welcome you, sir. May I request you to please start the proceedings, and I request you to give your welcome address, sir.
Yes, sir.
Professor Bala, good afternoon.
Yes, 1 second, sir. Just some problem is there, network. Yes, sir. Oh, yes, your blog has been updated. Some technical problem has come, sir. Something is black. Your ad block has been updated. Some version is coming and it is blocking.
Sir, you are visible and audible also, sir.
I am audible?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
You are very well audible. You are very well audible.
Balakrishna, you please continue. We are hearing you.
Good afternoon to everybody. This is Sri Kumar Chaturvedi from Trivandrum.
Oh. Hello, Chaturvedi. Hello, Professor Chaturvedi.
Everyone.
Namaskar.
Here I am, Professor.
Namaskar.
Yeah.
Dr. Balakrishnan.
Yes, sir.
We
Yes,
are hearing you.
Balakishan.
Please continue. Please continue, sir. We are hearing
Yes,
you.
sir. Good afternoon, everyone. I am really happy to have this great occasion, sir. We are grateful to Professor D.P. Singh and his team for arranging this wonderful program. And this is a great opportunity for all of us to remember, pay tribute to all our elders, those who have did immense contribution to the development of geography subject in India, sir, particularly. In this connection, this is a great occasion for everyone that, in spite of Sunday and in spite of in spite of their busy schedule, they made it possible that, to available online at this scorchy hot summer. I am grateful to each one of you on behalf of Department of Geography and Department of Osmania University. And we will today we are going to remember the great contributions about the great geographers, that is founders of geography in Osmania University, that is Mr. Syed Ahmad, Mr. C.G. Smith, Mr. V.N. Chaturvedi, and Professor V.L.S. Prakasha, Professor Shah Manzoor. And today's program, I invite President Professor Ashok Anjagi sir, Professor and Chairman, Department of Geography, Bangalore University, Karnataka University. And today's program, Professor M.S. Gill, former Professor and Head Department of Geography, Punjabi University, Patiala, Punjab, and convener, my colleague, dynamic Professor Sri Nagesh, Professor of Geography and Head Department of Geography, and he is also holding very important position as Controller of Examination at Osmania University. With these few words, I extend warm welcome to each one of you. And today we will have a wonderful and very memorable online meeting in remembering the contributions of the elders, great fathers of Geography Department of Osmania University, sir. Over to DP Singh, sir.
Sir, thank you, sir. Thank you so much, sir, for your wonderful welcome address. Now, may I request Professor Kalpana Markanday, Madam, to please give lecture on the makers and founders and makers of modern geography of Osmania University. That is Syed Ahmad Smith and Mr. V.N. Chaturvedi. Madam, over to you, madam.
Sure, thank you. Professor Sri Nagesh, thank you very much. Professor Hanjagi, Chairman, President of this meeting, Professor M.S. Gill, Professor B. Sri Nagesh, our head of the department, and Sudesh Nangia Madam, Dr. M. Mohan Babu, Professor Anita Pandey, Professor Seema Jalan, Professor Preeti Lekha Das Patnaik, Professor Ashish Sarkar, Professor Balkishan, Professor Ashok Kumar Lonawat, Professor Devendra Prasad Singh, Professor Rameshwar Prasad Singh, Dr. Ambarish Kumar Rai, and Dr. Amit Kumar. I start this talk of mine, which is going to be a very brief talk, where I will speak about the first three heads of the geography department of Osmania. Geography. He said, your subject is not important, you just sit down. And so these were the kind of indignities that the initial heads had to face in those days. But then they have put up with all that, in view of engaging and strengthening, I would say, our subject. Now, that is all that I have to say about the first three heads. And I would also say that I'm immensely indebted to my teacher, Professor Vittal Reddy, for giving me
a brief and crisp introduction of the former heads of the Department of Geography, Osmania University. It was 1942. Since inception, we too were struggling to get the information, but you have given us a lot of information in this regard. Thank you so much, madam. Now, may I request
Guru Vishnu, Guru Devo Maheshwara, Guru Sakshat Param Brahma, Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha, Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha, Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Articles, and my information is based on the impressions that I have received from there. Before I start, I would just quote Professor R. Ramachandran, who had been his student and also later his colleague, and he was also from Madras University as a student of him. He says, Professor Prakasha Rao's career forms a bridge between what may be termed as traditional and modern geography, a stage of transition that has materialized during the post-independence period. Before I start with him, there are a few popular sayings which Professor Prakasha Rao which are very close to Professor Prakasha. I do not have much information about his career in Osmania University, but I'm going to take it overall, and especially with his contributions when he was in Delhi University. See, one of the popular saying of Professor Prakasha Rao was, geographers are either exceptions or rejections. He used to say that only those students who join geography, they are really exceptions, they like that subject, and come what may, knowing all the faults that the subject has, and Professor Kalpana Markande has also mentioned, the way it was being treated by the sciences, the way it was being treated by social sciences, despite that, those who opt for it, they are really exceptions. Or he used to say that geographers are rejections. That is, those who don't get admission anywhere, they come to geography because we accept them all. And from our experience also, we know there were many students who came from science, they couldn't get admission in science, then they would opt for geography. They came from mathematics because they couldn't get admission because of the number of seats, or because they got a little less marks than they would be entitled to get admission. So they would take admission in geography. And similar was the case in other social sciences as well. So his popular saying always encouraged us, because he said that you are the exceptions. He never said that you are rejections. That is one of the ways he motivated the students. And there was another saying. He would say, I'm a geographer, not a planner. See, everybody knows about his contribution, and somehow or the other, we try to mix ourselves with planners because we feel that that gives us a better status. But he never accepted that status. He said, I do not like getting into somebody else's shoes. So basically, I'm a geographer, and I am proud to be a geographer. His another statement was that ideas must be aired. Whatever you have in mind, whatever philosophy you have, you must talk about it. He says they become, once they are aired, they become part of the universe. Credit may not go to you as they are not printed or published in your name, but they are there in space. So that was something which was highly philosophical in his thinking, which we had always been appreciating. Then he also said that a city region, something, he talked about regional development and all that. He said a city region is a mix of two processes, and that is urbanization of rural and ruralization of urban. And this is very true, as we have been seeing, all of us, those who have been working, and especially Professor Kalpana Markande's work on urbanization is so well illustrated, and also the other scholars, that this statement holds very much true in the expansion of the city regions as we observe today. And then he was very conscious of the fact that whenever we are not able to say, how do we go about as research scholars? He used to say, given the data constraints, what are your observations? So your students say,
you are watching tell everyone is visible here.
Now with this, I'll give a brief resume of Professor V.L.S. Prakasha Rao. He was born on 23rd February 1917 in the city of Vizag, the modern city of Visakhapatnam. After completing his graduation from his native place, patterns and problems based on field studies in the early 50s. And then as a reader in geography in the same department. The department was being headed by Professor George Kurian at that time, who incidentally was also my teacher and guide at the MA level in Delhi University when he took the headship of Delhi University. While in the department, he became the editor of Indian Geographical Journal published by the department. He was in Madras University between 1952 to 1958. In 1958, Professor Prakasha Rao moved to Calcutta Indian Statistical Institute, at the invitation of Professor Mahalanobis. At the ISI, he worked in collaboration with A.T.A. Learmonth, where his ideas on regional planning and regional development took shape. He became the head of the Regional Survey Unit of ISI, Calcutta. Later, this unit was shifted to Delhi ISI, and Professor Prakasha Rao headed this unit till 1962. The ISI studies illustrated the usefulness of regional surveys to Indian planning. His major contribution during this period was Towns of Mysore State. Recalling his association with Professor Prakasha Rao, Andrew Learmonth recalls that he met Professor Prakasha Rao in 1956 when he came to ISI Calcutta under the Colombo Plan under a technical exchange program. Learmonth was to begin his 2 years research program in the state of Mysore, now Karnataka, that experienced almost double its size of population as a result of reorganization of states. He was looking for an Indian colleague to work on planning so that they both could learn from each other. Prakasha Rao struck him immediately as a potential colleague, clearly a very able man by any standards, imaginative, sensitive.
Hello.
In 1962, Professor Rao moved to Hyderabad as Professor of Geography in Osmania University. During his tenure at Osmania University, he established a collaboration with Geography Department at Strasbourg University, France. During 63-64, Professor Rao directed a project on small and medium towns of Telangana, sponsored by Planning Commission. He was visiting professor at the University of Chicago between December 1964 and May 1965. During this period, he visited a number of universities in USA and delivered lectures. He also visited Japan during this period and delivered lectures. In 1966, Professor Prakasha Rao joined Department of Human Geography, University of Delhi. He remained there till 1972. During this period, he also served as Director, Delhi School of Economics and Dean Faculty of Social Sciences at the University of Delhi. In 1968, we had the 21st International Geographical Union Conference, which was held in Delhi. He was the joint organizer of the International Symposium on Regional Planning. Sorry. I hope there's not a call from you. Sorry. He was a joint organizer of the International Symposium on Regional Planning. He was also a member of the Commission on Quantitative Methods in Geography and Commission on Regional Aspects of Economic Development. In 1967-68, Professor Rao visited France and Germany, where he had the opportunity to study the regional planning, especially efforts made in the aid of regional planning in these countries. In October 1969, he became a consultant to UNESCAP and assisted in a project on drawing up guidelines for regional planning. In 1971, he visited Syracuse University for a period of 2 months and established contacts with Professor David Sofer. While at Delhi University, he established collaboration with the University of Cambridge and initiated Indo-British seminars under the Indo-British Exchange Program. The first such seminar on rural-urban interaction was held in 1972 in the Department of Geography, University of Delhi. While in Delhi University, he also started a journal named Analytical Geography. The first issue of this journal was published in 1971. Incidentally, the journal saw only 2 issues. After he left, it could not be carried on. He was advisor and member of several working groups, panels, and committees during this period, like Working Group on Planning Regions of India, 1970-71, Task Force on Multi-Level Planning, 1972, ICSSR Working Group on Social Policy Research, 1971-72, ICSSR Standing Committee on Human, Political, and Economic Geography. In 1972, Prakasha Rao left Delhi University to take up an assignment as Senior Fellow at the Institute of Social and Economic Change, Bangalore, at the invitation of Professor M.N. Srinivasan, a well-known sociologist who was also at Delhi School of Economics before he left for Bangalore as director of the ISEC. During his stay at ISEC, Professor Rao directed the Socio-Economic Survey of Bangalore City and its region. The project report was published by Allied Publishers in 1979 under the title, The Structure of an Indian Metropolis. During this period, he spent 2 months' term at Australian National University as well. Between 1972, 78 and 81, he was an expert member of the Technical Advisory Committee on the identification of backward areas in Telangana. During 79-82, Professor Rao became an ICSSR Senior Fellow at the Indian Institute of Management at Bangalore. Here he completed a study on urbanization in India, spatial dimensions, published by Concept in 1983. This work presents the quintessence of his thoughts on urbanization and incorporates the findings of his research on various urban issues. Later, he was associated as Senior Fellow in the Center for Economic and Social Studies, CERS, Hyderabad, and continued to offer his best counseling on several research projects undertaken by the Institute. Professor Rao's career profile shows a high dynamism, both spatial and academic. Spatially, he moved from Vizag to Calcutta in search of green academic pastures, and from there to Madras, to Hyderabad, to Delhi, to Bangalore, and back to Hyderabad. And in the process, both the institutions, universities that he visited, and the incumbent himself greatly benefited academically. Professor Rao's scholarship extended to USA, Japan, Great Britain, Germany, France, Australia, Thailand, a few of the countries which I could come across, where his academic credentials received recognition and applause. Along with this, academically, his area of research shows dynamism in the form of expansion and close cooperation with other sister disciplines, trying to bring multidisciplinarity, flavor, and quantification in the discipline. Sorry. Professor Rao started his research with agriculture and land use, which he took up for his PhD at the University of Calcutta. Then he worked on industries. His first paper was on geographical factors in shipbuilding industries of India, published in Calcutta Geographical Review, Volume 3, 1941, at the young age of 24. His second paper was also on industries, the paper entitled The Geographer and the Localization of Industries, that was published in the Journal of Madras Geographical Association, Volume 17, 1942. He worked in the area of economic geography by bringing out Economic Atlas of Andhra Pradesh with V.K. Ramanathan in 1941. It was mimeographed. His contribution to administrative geography is reflected in his work on an exercise in regrouping administrative units, a study of Karnataka 1980 with V.K. Tiwari. Along with this, he worked extensively on urban and urbanization, regional development and regional planning, cartography, and map work. His work on Atlas of Mysore State is an excellent example of his interest in cartography and map work. He almost revolutionized the use of quantitative methods in geography with the introduction of statistical and mathematical methods in urban and human geography, regional development, and planning. For computer mapping, computer cartography, introduced for the first time in Delhi University when he was there, that credit for it goes to Professor V.L.S. Prakasha Rao. His principal associate in bringing revolution in computer planning was Professor R. Ramachandran at Delhi School of Economics. His ideas in research methodology were quite innovative. He urged his scholars to move from micro to meso to macro level analysis. He emphasized and prioritized fieldwork. He emphasized on large-scale mapping of the study area to derive and understand the spatial and regional patterns of the variables under consideration, to understand the geographical profile of the said variables from specific to the journal, from local to the regional, from village level to the district, to the state, and or at the level of the nation. And then come to planning strategy and a policy framework. That used to be his style of instructions for research. While at Delhi University, Professor Rao had built a strong team of researchers with whom he coordinated to build up a strong base for geographical research. Some of them, they were his students. Some of them continued to do their PhD in Delhi University, and others, they completed their PhD from other universities since he also moved out. Some of the names which I would like to give here are Professor Venugopal, who assisted him in Telangana project and later joined Tirupati University as faculty. Professor M.N. Kaul, who participated in terrain evaluation project and became professor at Jammu University, and currently he's the president of the IGS. Professor V.K. Tiwari, who assisted him in Muzaffarnagar project and became professor at IIM Bangalore. Professor Dr. R.S. Gangwar, who helped him in intercity communication study and became reader in the Alsing College, Delhi University. Professor M.N. Pal, who helped in statistical analysis at various stages, and he joined Calcutta University, ISI, as professor. At various stages of work in cartography, especially I'm referring to Delhi University, he was assisted by one Mr. Krishan Kumar and another Mr. Bachiram, the two excellent cartographers in the department during his time. Last but not the least, Professor R. Ramachandran had been his right hand throughout during his tenure at Delhi University, and I'm sure elsewhere also must have been. Way back in 1969, Professor Ramachandran developed computer mapping program that made the task of mapping easier and quicker for the projects and the research scholars. Professor Ramachandran continued to monitor the computer cartographic work of Professor Rao's research scholars. And also, Professor Tiwari continued to work to monitor the work of statistical analysis of his scholars. He developed excellent contacts with Professor Mahalono Bonis, Professor C.R. Rao, the renowned statisticians, Professor K.L. Nagar in Delhi University as econometrician, Professor M.N. Srinivas, sociologist, Professor Ashish Bose, demographer, and developed mutual skills in cross-fertilization of ideas and research methods and techniques. His foreign collaborators, Johnny Brush, A.T. Learmont, David Sofer, Ginsberg, Brian J.L. Berry, and a host of geographers from Cambridge University are names to reckon with in academic field. Back home, Professor L.S. Bhatt, Professor C.D. Deshpande, Dr. K.V. Sundaram, along with Professor Rao, formed a strong team of scholars in regional development and regional planning. These are but a few acquaintances about whom I could mention. His converse had been much more comprehensive. Professor Rao's surgeon in Delhi University between 1972 had been very productive, both for the Department of Human Geography and for Professor Prakasha Rao himself. He directed quite a few projects during this period. A few of them which I would like to mention here. One is on terrain evaluation study in Bikaner and Jaisalmer districts, sponsored by the Ministry of Defense, Government of India, 1967-69. One of the major researchers on this project was Professor M.N. Kaul. Growth promoting and growth retarding factors in Muzaffarnagar district sponsored by the Planning Commission 1967-69. Professor Ramachandran and Professor V.K. Tiwari had been closely associated with these projects. Socioeconomic Survey of Vijayawada City, sponsored by ICSSR 1971-73. Besides, he was also consultant to a project on intercity communication study in India, a project of the Ford Foundation directed by Dr. V.L.S. Reed of Duke University, USA, along with Professor Ashish Bose from the Institute of Economic Growth between 1967-69. The period between 1966-72 also saw the expansion of the Department of Geography, its strength in the number of postdoctoral students and teachers, and postgraduate students as well. Number of research scholars went up. Students' retention saw a rise, especially among the research scholars. There was a rise in the number of invited lectures and seminars in the department. This is also the period when undergraduate department program in geography got started in quite a few colleges in Delhi University. There were quite a few PhDs under his supervision, as I said, from Delhi University and also from outside, but I can hear.
Hello.
Yes, please. Can you hear me?
Yes, madam. I'm just listening your.
Okay, thank you. I'll just give a few studies which have been conducted as PhD dissertations under his supervision. Here, Dr. R.S. Gangowar, he worked on urban geography of Pilibhit. Dr. Ranjana Hanspal, she worked on urban structure of Bangalore city. Madhushri Majumdar, the structure of an industrial city, a case study of Durgapur. Dr. M.N. Paul, regional analysis for national development techniques and case studies. Rangamani Parthasarathy, commercial retail shopping structure of urban Delhi. R.L. Patni, concentration and dispersion of major industries in India. V.K. Tiwari, statistical analysis of state-wise differences in consumer expenditure, pattern and level of industrialization in India. Venugopal, urbanization in Telangana. And my own thesis, pattern of rural settlements in Delhi region, a geographical analysis. These studies show that the major thrust here had been on industrial geography, urban geography, regional development planning, and urban regions. These are a few. Of course, I'm sure there are many more students who might have worked under him, but I did not have information. And if there are any, I would like them to please inform me so that I could upgrade my observations. Apart from teaching, guiding, and conducting research, expanding the vistas of geography through interdisciplinary and multidisciplinary dialogues with an ideal combination of quantitative, qualitative, and choreographic techniques, Professor Rao's publications, authored, co-authored, spanned over a period of more than 4 decades, right from 1941 to 1983. From first paper on shipbuilding industry in 1941 to urbanization in India 1983, I have come across a list of 75 such publications. It's not possible to give details of each and every publication as Professor Devendra Prasad had given about his supervisor, but I will briefly give the observations regarding his contributions to geography which have been made by several geographers. I give here a few of the insights made by renowned geographers who worked closely with him. One is, of course, from Professor R. Ramachandran, one time a student at Madras and then a colleague in Delhi University. He writes, Prakasha Rao maintained a strong predilection for techniques-oriented research. He never shied from learning about the actual application of complex statistical methods. In fact, he demonstrated the different ways in which techniques could be productively used to gain insights into geographical problems. Prakasha Rao was not only the first geographer in the world to to use factor analysis, but even more significantly, he used this technique in a wider range of situations, from the investigation on regional disparities, measurement of the importance of central places, to the study of regional and urban structure. It is this aspect that highlights the originality of his approach. His factor analysis study was undertaken in 1954, much before Brian Berry popularized it in the 60s. Professor Ramachandran's another observation relates to Professor Rao's interest in cartographic techniques. He observes, Professor Rao's fondness for map designing exceeded his love of statistical methods. Numerous examples of meticulously designated design maps can be found in his published work, but even more importantly, he used maps as essential tools of research. In every research project, he devoted a lot of time to map analysis, in particular the village level mapping schemes, first adopted in regional inventory of Muzaffarnagar district and later in the study of Bangalore metropolitan region. They merit attention. He had a rare ability of combining within the same map several related spatial dimensions and highlight the interrelationship of phenomena in space by careful choice of shading schemes and colors with insect maps and diagrams to provide balance and aesthetic form. Another major contribution to Indian geography by Professor Prakasha Rao has been in the area of urban and regional development and planning. Interest in both these areas grew in 50s when he was still working in Madras and developed as the decades passed by during this period. There are a few observations by Andrew Learmonth. During his interaction in India with Professor Prakasha Rao for 4 fruitful years, Professor Learmonth narrates that Prakasha Rao took over the ISI's continuing interdisciplinary regional planning team and contributed a great deal to regional thinking. In part, his role was to make known to Indian colleagues, especially geographers, some important trends in regional planning in the many overseas countries he visited from 1951 onwards, and partly discovering true indigenous patterns of regional planning far more appropriate to India's needs than any imported ideas could ever be. If one looks at the systematic review of Prakasha Rao's work on urban geography, say from a survey of towns in Mysore state to urbanization in India from 1964 to 1983, there is continuity and wholeness in these contributions to knowledge, and this despite the fact that a few of these works are written jointly with others. Their roots can be traced back to the work they did together in Karnataka during 1956-58. In his article on Prakasha Rao, As I Know Him, Andrew Learmonth summed up his qualities saying, Prakasha Rao, clearly a very able man by any standards, imaginative and sensitive, full of ideas, perhaps a little frustrated, that heavy burden of teaching and administration had prevented him from implementing many projects that he carried in his mind's eye, like many a good scholars and conscientious teachers of his time. There are some observations from Dr. K.V. Sundaram. He said that Professor Prakasha Rao made signal contributions and opened up many research frontiers. His contributions in the field of urban and regional research have been exemplary at a time when regional planning was a vague idea and little talked about. He vigorously advocated a regional approach to national problems and demonstrated effectively the usefulness of regional surveys while he was at ISI. In this process, several geographical techniques were experimented and refined. He was forever exploring and advocating the use of sophisticated tools for improving the quality of judgment. His insistence on high standards of scholarship was commendable. I am missing the screen. Am I audible?
Yes, madam. You're audible, madam.
Okay.
Yes, madam. Very clearly. Very clearly.
Okay, but I'm missing you all on the screen. There are few observations which I would like to make. As I observed him through my student days and much later till he had left Delhi, but he kept on visiting and he kept on, I was fortunate that whenever he came, he visited us and stayed with us. Prakasha Rao has been a pioneer in developing the concept of rural-urban fringe within the Indian metropolitan regions. This is revealed in several research studies conducted by him and his research scholars and colleagues jointly or independently. From pattern of rural settlements in Delhi region, a geographical analysis, to the structure of an Indian metropolis, a case study of Bangalore, the idea of rural-urban fringe received its final shape. His interest focused on the rural settlements within the metropolitan range of influence, which faced the onslaught of city life and culture and went through a process of structural, social, and economic transformation. Such settlements, popularly designated as urban villages, also became the special focus of study for research scholars working with him. Along with the analysis of structural and functional characteristics of fringe settlements, permeated the ideas on rural-urban interactions, inter-urban, rural commuting and movement patterns, which have been observed through several studies which Professor Rao supervised, encouraged, and directed. The development of this line of research culminated in the exchange seminar on rural-urban interactions between Indian and British geographers, about which I just talked a little earlier. Now, coming to his brief family profile, the contributions are, apart from the main text, the contributions are also from his son, Dr. Raghvaswamy, and his close associate and my contemporary, Professor Vinod Tiwari. Professor Rao, popularly known as V.L.S. Prakasha Rao, was born on 23rd February 1917 at Vizag, now known as Vishakhapatnam, in the coastal Andhra Pradesh. His father worked for Postal Services of India and mother was a devout religious housewife. His early education was in Vizag only. He did his BCom from AVM College, Vizag. In BCom, there was a paper in commercial geography which he had opted, and from where I guess he might have developed interest in geography. For higher education, he had three options: Aligarh University, BHU, and Calcutta University, where geography was being offered as a subject at master's level. He chose Calcutta basically because of its nearness to his hometown, Vizag. See, he made two important decisions at this stage. One was spatial, that he wanted to be close to his hometown and family, and the other was social, close to his family. Both Professor Rao and his wife had great interest in classical vocal music. Mrs. Rao was a vocalist and a good violin player, and Professor Rao used to play on harmonium. While in Calcutta, he got one harmonium made, and that instrument is carefully preserved and still played by his great-grandchildren, the granddaughter of Dr. V. Raghvaswamy. Professor Rao had been playing harmonium and giving background music in the functions organized by the Andhra Pradesh Association in Calcutta. The interest in music has percolated in successive generations. Professor Rao's guru in vocal classical music was Dwaran Venkataswamy Naidu, with whom he had Eklavya-type relations. Mrs. Rao was known to be a highly dutiful wife, a devout mother, and a perfect host, especially to his students and colleagues. Their house was an extension of his workplace and a cozy dwelling for many of his research scholars. Professor Rao had an extremely simple lifestyle. During our days when postgraduate students and teachers used to come to the class with suits, shoes, and ties, he would walk into the department in chappals and loose bush shirt. The couple was blessed with 4 children, 3 sons and a daughter. V. Swami, the eldest, chose to be a geographer like his father, and he rose to high position in NRSA. Lakshman, an engineer, Ravi, a business manager, are settled abroad. And so is his loving daughter Sharda, a dental surgeon who is settled in Australia. However, they're all keeping the tradition of music in the family intact, irrespective of their living in foreign countries. Very few among us may know about a strong sense of wit and humor in Prakasha Rao, which one could often hear when he was in the company of other scholars of high ranking, like Professor C.D. Deshpande, Professor L.S. Bhatt, Professor K.V. Sundaram. And very often, whenever Professor Rao came to Delhi, he used to come and stay at my place at JNU. And all these professors, they used to gather around and had very high quality conversation and discussion about the subject and also about philosophy. Once about, I'll give one example. Once talking about Gita. You see, we have one shlok, karmanev adhikaraste, ma phaleshu kadachan. So, this really means that you do the work and then don't say wait for the result or don't expect the results, whatever it may be. There used to be one professor in Bombay University, Professor Karmarkar. I met him in a few of the conferences. So while discussing this shloka, an idea came on them. Professor Karmarkar, it means Karmarkar, that is Karmanevi Adhikaraste. So everyone started laughing. So Professor Karmarkar's name, how it was interpreted. Karmanev Adhikaraste, Karmarkar. So do, die and do. So keep on doing the work. So that was, it was a real intellectual treat. Then there was another joke which I can tell. There is, everyone knows about Professor V.K.R.V. Rao. He had been a great institutional establisher. He established Delhi School of Economics. He established Institute of Economic Growth in Delhi University. Then I think Isaac was also developed by him. So they used to call him V.L.S, V.K.R.V. Rao, and in joke they used to address him as alphabetical Rao. So in fact it meant even Professor V.K.R.V. Rao was humorously being expressed as alphabetical Rao. So these are some of that shows really that the wit and humor was also part of his life along with his lust for music and lust for academics. Professor Rao, Mrs. Rao passed away in 1982, leaving a great void in Professor Rao's life. However, Professor Rao continued working for the cause of our discipline till the very end. Professor Rao obtained Nirvana on 18th December 1992 and left us a rich heritage of innovative geography. Before I conclude, I'll just recite one shloka, which really shows how the fruits of maturity have been passed on to our successive generation. Om Trayambakam Yajamahe Sugandhim Pushtivardhanam Urvarukamiv Vandana Mrityor Mukshi Amamritat Om. Namaskar.
Thank you, madam. Thank you so much for a wonderful information about late Professor V.L.S. Prakasha. I think we at the Department of Geography are really indebted to you for giving such a wonderful information about Professor V.L.S. Prakasha. Thank you so much, madam. Now, may I request Professor Kalpana Markanda, madam, to please deliver a lecture on Professor Shah Manzoor Alam, sir. I think no other person has the authority to tell about Professor Shah Manzoor Alam, sir, rather than Professor Kalpana Markanda, madam, because she was closely associated with him, with his under his guidance. She has done project and also various papers and books were published along with him. Thank you so much, madam, for accepting this invitation. May I now request you to please deliver a lecture on Professor Shah Manzoor Alam. Over to you, madam. Thank you so much, madam. Madam, unmute your mic, madam.
I said thank you, Professor Srinagesh, for the kind words for me in the beginning of the series as well as now. Now I'll give a brief lecture on Professor Shah Manzoor Alam. Though none of us can speak about the achievements of that great personality, he was a legendary geographer, a visionary and an able administrator. Professor Shah Manzoor Alam was a person of exceptional caliber, discipline and given to hard work, that it is difficult to find parallels in the present day context. Professor Manzoor Alam touched many lives and mine was one of them. Most of his PhD scholars were faculty at the Department of Geography and my teachers. Most of them worked on urban geography or regional planning. He commanded a unique respect, which almost translated as worship from his students. He has been an icon of the geography department, if I may say so, of Osmania University for a long time. Whenever any one of us went outside Hyderabad, including abroad, we were identified as belonging to Alam's department, quote unquote. So that was the kind of name that he had worldwide as a representative of this department or as an icon of this department. Now, he lived by certain principles, and when I was a student, I would see him walk into the geography department of Osmania University at exactly 8:30 a.m. Once his car failed 2 kilometers away from our department, and he still walked in to take our class at 9 a.m. That was his sense of discipline. He said a machine can fail, but not a human being. Now, he would not allow students to enter his class even if they were slightly late. In fact, no one dared to come late, but these were the standing instructions to the attender. He was a role model for the coming generations. He had a keen and alert mind and would keep abreast of the latest technologies. Age was not a deterrent on this count. His motto was, and that's very important, I felt in my life, that if the institution grows, we grow with it. And that was his guiding principle throughout his life, wherever he went. He had set exceptionally high standards for research and teaching and was an institution builder par excellence. He had a very incisive, I would say a very, very incisive mind and would impart varying perspectives to issues and problems which came for his scrutiny. It was an honor and pleasure to be taught by a legendary figure of international stature like Professor Shah Manzoor Alam. Professor Alam molded many careers in his life. There was a lot to be learned from him as his students at the postgraduate level, apart from the subject. And these included discipline, punctuality, keen observation, almost a childlike curiosity that he had, a penchant for the latest in the field, a kind of love, a self-effacing love for and devotion to the institution, exceptional oratory powers. His lectures were music to the ears apart from the content, teaching with live examples and extempore. He would look for alternative solutions to problems which people found difficult to even solve. He would look for 2-3 solutions to such problems. Giving a multifaceted perspective to a problem were some of the things we admired in him as students. An exceptionally talented person who optimized his time to impart the most to the subject and the institution, he has left behind a legacy which has elevated the goals that the subsequent generations may seek to reach. Now, talking about the early life of Professor Manzoor Alam. Professor Alam was born in Ghazipur, Uttar Pradesh on 1st January 1928. He had his early education in Gorakhpur and did his bachelor's and master's degrees from Aligarh Muslim University. He had a brief stint of teaching in Uttar Pradesh, though his desire was to join the defense forces. However, destiny had something else in store for him. The then Vice-Chancellor of Osmania University was identifying talent from all over the country in all subjects to place in the different departments of Osmania University, as many of the professors of Osmania University had migrated to Pakistan in 1947. This is how Professor Manzoor Alam, who was found to have a unique spark, joined Osmania University as a lecturer in geography in 1952. He was posted in the evening college. While being employed in Osmania University, Professor Manzoor Alam availed the British Council travel grant and the University of Edinburgh scholarship to complete his doctorate under the guidance of Professor Reford Watson at the University of Edinburgh. Now, he was a person responsible for the upliftment of the geography department of Osmania University. The geography department was a small department when Professor Manzoor Alam joined, and it was offering undergraduate courses, though in 1955, the post-graduation course was also MA Geography was introduced. Professor Alam, though not the founder of the Department of Geography, was a builder of this Department of Geography at Osmania University, Hyderabad. Professor Alam introduced the path-breaking, trend-setting postgraduate diploma in geographical cartography way back in the 1960s. It was much sought after by the Survey of India officials. He also started postgraduate diploma in urban and metropolitan planning, which were very well taken up when it was started. He also brought the University Grants Commission funded Special Assistance Program, or SAP as we call it, for the Department of Geography, Osmania University as far back as 1978. This was for augmenting and upgrading the material resources of the department, as well as to upgrade the skill set of the teachers by sending them on sabbaticals for pursuing their doctorate. 4 teachers availed this facility and upgraded their skills. Thus, the material resources as well as the human resources were upgraded. Besides, 2 posts were also brought with UGC funding under SAP for lecturer in urban geography and lecturer in cartography in the department. But for his efforts and foresight, the geography department at Osmania University would have been an obscure department in the university. He uplifted it to the present pedestal that it is on today. Professor Alam gave an international stature to the Department of Geography, Osmania University. He held a number of international and binational conferences, had undertaken international research projects, and lectured extensively in almost all the continents. Now, continuing with his work of upliftment of the geography department, we can say that he had initiated an exchange program with Bochum University, Germany, for carrying out research in urban geography. 4 faculty members from our department visited Germany on this exchange program. German professors used to come to our department for interacting with faculty and research scholars. The department also held an Indo-German seminar on the urban fringe. An exchange program with Strasbourg University in France, which was initiated early by Professor V.L.S. Prakasha, was further developed, and this was in the field of cartography, and faculty from both the countries visited the other country on this program. While Mr. Chaturvedi expanded the teaching front of the department, Professor Alam expanded it on the research front. Now, an example of one of his research projects I will give here is the Hyderabad Metropolitan Research Project, or the HMRP as we call it, which went on from 1965 to 1969. It was a pioneering work of its kind and was a mammoth project with an interdisciplinary team of social scientists, statisticians, and cartographers who worked as a team for the first time in any university. Professor Ram Mohan Rao and Professor K.N. Gopi owe their career growth to this project. Professor Alam also got his professorship due to the eminence gained while heading this project. HMRP was the stepping stone for his academic excellence in the following years. It remained his lifeblood for the years to come. The outcome of this project was published in the form of a book called Metropolitan Hyderabad and its region that was brought out in 1972. Now, going beyond the geography department, we find that Professor Alam started the Center for Area Studies in Osmania University in 1982. The Indian National Cartography Association, INCA as we call it, in collaboration with the Survey of India, was his brainchild and initiative that was started in 1979. He was the founder member of INCA, but not its first president. He withdrew from becoming the president and handed over that position to Mr. Khosla from Survey of India. Now, he, along with Professor C.D. Deshpande and Professor L.S. Bhatt and some members of the geography faculty of Osmania University, signed the memorandum for the foundation of National Association of Geographers India, NAGI. He was a founder member of NAGI. NAGI was born in the geography department of Osmania University and registered there. Perhaps this is something that many of us as NAGI members may not be aware of. Professor Alam also served as Vice Chancellor of Kashmir University from 1984 to 1987. His energies in serving the institutions were indefatigable, I would say. However, when he found the air was not very favorable, he stepped aside with dignity, and this was so with several institutions. There was no way that he would stop his research, and he carried it on almost till the very end. He would also give valuable suggestions stemming from his work and experience to whoever sought it. He was always welcoming when one visited him at his residence, and the hospitality knew no bounds. Professor Alam served Osmania University in various capacities, like Head Department of Geography from 1968 to 1979, Dean Faculty of Social Sciences, and also as Founder Director of the Center for Area Studies. As a tribute to his contributions, the University Grants Commission selected him as National Lecturer in Geography in 1977. Professor Alam was also awarded UGC Emeritus Professorship after his retirement, and he worked on it from JNTU Hyderabad. He was appointed member of the Executive Council of several central universities of the Government of India, while on the Executive Council of the Northeastern Hill University, Shillong. During its formative years, he played a crucial role in defining its developmental programs. He also gave valuable inputs to Maulana Azad National Urdu University, or Manu as we call it in Hyderabad, in a similar capacity. Professor Alam had a global reach. He was invited by Massey University, New Zealand in 1974 and by Macquarie University, Australia in 1972 as visiting professor to deliver lectures on urban and regional planning. He was also a member of the Commission on Urban Development and National Settlement Systems of the International Geographical Union, IGU, from 1972 to 1980. He lectured widely in the universities in Malaysia and in Eastern and Southern Africa. UNESCO utilized the services of Professor Alam to work on a project on vulnerability and resilience of cities in India. He also served as a member of the Indian Council of Social Sciences since its beginning in 1972 to 1975 and again from 1988 to 1991. Now, so far as his writings are concerned, Professor Alam took up the preparation of the Planning Atlas of Andhra Pradesh, which was earlier started by Professor V.L.S. Prakasha. It highlighted the role of the spatial concept in planning and brought around the planners to take cognition of maps as an effective tool in planning. Professor Afzal Muhammad and Dr. Muhammad Ahmad from the department took active part in the preparation of this atlas. It was an outcome of the team effort of the members of the department under the stewardship of Professor Alam. It was an exceptional contribution through which the role of geography and cartography was highlighted in the planning process. It was intended as a decision support system for the planners. I am told that this atlas bagged the President of India gold medal. He also got the first map of Osmania University campus prepared. His work on energy studies was one of a kind by a geographer. He has about 7 books to his credit and 50 published papers. His last book, War on Terrorism or American Strategy for Global Domination, Islamic Perspective on the Afghan-Iraq War, was brought out in 2009 by Vantage Press of USA. His writings have always been trend-setting and inspiring for the new generations. Apart from urban geography and regional planning, which were his specialty, his interests included global warming, new astronomical findings, geopolitics, and natural disasters. Professor Alam took to energy studies and worked on a project, Fuel Wood in Urban Markets, funded by Resources for the Future, a Washington-based organization, along with Dr. Joy Dunkerley, an American economist, and Professor K.N. Gopi from our department. The success of this project deepened his interest in energy studies and led to the establishment of the Institute of Energy and Environmental Studies in Hyderabad in 1990. In 1994, the Institute took up a World Bank funded project on household energy consumption in urban areas, a case study of metropolitan Hyderabad. The project was jointly directed by Professor Alam and Dr. Douglas Barnes of the World Bank. Professor Alam had a disciplined daily routine. He had a fixed time schedule to carry out different tasks till almost the end came. He would start the day with morning prayers, read newspapers, and have breakfast, after which he had a brief nap. After getting up, he would freshen up, read, interact with, sorry for that. After getting up, he would freshen up, read, interact with select few who visited him, have lunch, and work on whatever he was writing. He was adept at handling the laptop, printer, internet, etc., and was self-dependent in that sense. He would He would work on his laptop till the night with a break for dinner, and he told me that he would listen to ghazals on his laptop before sleeping. Professor Alam has purchased a vehicle for the department for field work, which shows the importance that he attached to field work. Many of us went to the field as students and even as faculty in that vehicle. It was with the department for almost 25 years and gave an enviable position to the department. Professor Manzoor Alam was awarded Bhugol Ratna Award for his lifetime achievement by the National Association of Geographers India in 2017. He was visiting faculty at Imam Muhammad Ibn Syed. In 1992, he was requested by Al-Imam Muhammad Ibn Saud University, Riyadh, to work on the scientific implications of selected Quranic verses. He was responsible for establishing a trust called Mustafa Educational Network Trust. The trust had brought out a set of 30 monographs related to different aspects of Islam. In 2004, he was key to establishing the Indian School of Excellence Trust that would provide quality education combined with human values at an affordable cost. A school under this trust was set up at Toli Chowki, Hyderabad, and became functional in June 2004. Now, I would like to show some pictures of Professor Alam along with I don't know if I can present. Can I present some pictures? Okay. It's not showing. How do I present? I have some in my PowerPoint. I have some pictures of a PowerPoint.
Madam, go to this up arrow box, madam.
Go to?
There is an up arrow box is there, madam.
I have taken that.
Yeah. Go to a window or entire screen, madam. If you have to, before that, you have to open the PPT, madam, on your desktop.
I have opened PPT, but it is not showing. When I'm saying window or entire screen also, it is not showing.
No, you have to keep it open, madam.
It is open.
You will get a share an application window. In that, you can open it, madam.
Window, yeah, it is showing. Thank you. Yeah. So, can you see the?
Yes.
The pictures, yeah.
We can see it.
Yeah, here he's seen with some of the colleagues and their spouses, and Professor Alam and Mrs. Alam are seen in that. And here he's seen with his son, Shah Shahab Alam. In fact, he lost his only son to lung cancer in 2013. And when I went to meet him after that, after a few days of that incident, he was his quiet self and never betrayed his emotions. He always spoke very endearingly of his wife who passed away due to heart disease in 1998. He also doted on his 3 daughters, Rana Siddiqui, who stays in USA, Rumana Ahmad, who stays in Hyderabad, and Rubab Ali Farid, who stays in USA, who have come up very well in life. Professor Alam stayed for a long time at New Jersey and had taken up the American citizenship. And Professor Alam had been academically active almost till his demise on 22nd June 2021. With his passing away, the geography fraternity has lost a national figure, a legendary geographer, an erudite scholar, a visionary and an able administrator. His loss to geography, cartography, and the society at large is irreplaceable. Now, next one. How do I put it? Next one. Now, these are the books. Is it visible? These are the books that Professor Alam had published. There is Metropolitan Hyderabad and its region, a strategy for development, which is the outcome of the Hyderabad Metropolitan Research Project, and which has been almost like a Bible for the planners of Hyderabad. And his first book, in fact, was Hyderabad Sikandrabad Twin Cities, a study in urban geography, which was brought out in 1965, and which is the result of his PhD. It is an outcome of his PhD. And then there is Fuelwood in Urban Markets, which he brought out with Joy Dunkerley and Professor K.N. Gopi. And there is Poverty in Metropolitan Cities that he brought out with Professor Fatima Ali Khan. There is Settlement System of India that he brought out with Professor K.N. Gopi. There is Urbanization in Developing Countries and Indo-Russian Collaborative Volume that Osmania University published, and which he brought out with Professor Pokshy Shevetsky, a Russian professor. And then there is Urbanization in Middle Africa, which he again brought out with Professor K.N. Gopi. And then there is this book, Urban Growth Theories and Settlement Systems of India, where he asked me and Professor Gita Reddy to compile articles that he wanted to highlight, his own publications, which he wanted to highlight. Now, his later books include the Unique Perspectives on Islam, where this book, Unique Perspectives on Islam, is a path-breaking work. It covers a wide spectrum of traces and traces the evolution of socio-economic, political, ethical values of Islam from medieval to the contemporary period. And the second book that he brought out, and that was also the last book that he brought out, War on Terrorism or American Strategy for Global Dominance. In this book, Professor Alam notes that although distinguished scholars have produced works on the Afghanistan-Iraq wars, none to his knowledge have analyzed the impact of this catastrophic war on Islam and on the Muslim world. Professor Alam feels that his book provides the missing Islamic perspective. Now here he is seen with his son Shahab and daughter Rubab. And here in the second picture, he is seen as Vice Chancellor of Kashmir University attending the convocation. Here he is seen with his sweet-natured wife, Mrs. Banu Begum, in front of their house in USA and here in front of his house in Hyderabad in the second picture. And here in these pictures, he's seen along with his wife and grandchildren in Kashmir. And here he's seen along with his wife and granddaughter in the first picture and along with his sister and brother-in-law in the second picture. And then he's seen with his daughters Rana, Rumana and Ribab. And in the second picture with daughters, son-in-law and newly married granddaughter and her husband. And here he's seen with Professor Rammohan Rao and myself when we used to visit him on different occasions at his residence. So these are the pictures that we have. And then I would also like to thank, Rumana, in fact, as all the family pictures have come from Mrs. Rumana Ahmad, daughter of Professor Manzoor Alam. I thank her wholeheartedly that in spite of having COVID at that time, she made the pictures available to me. And some factual details were given by my teacher, Professor Rammohan Rao. I'm immensely indebted to him, more so as he corrected some of my mistakes in my presentation. And our teachers are always teachers for life, I would say. And last but not the least, I acknowledge that Professor Manzoor Alam himself had given me a large part of the material presented here, saying, Kalpana, I want you to write my obituary. I was stunned at that time. But then this is a tribute to him, apart from the two obituaries that I have written based on the material that he gave me. I thank Professor Srinagesh once again for the kind words about me at the beginning of the lecture series and also at the beginning of this presentation. Thank you. And thank you all for bearing with me and my cough.
Sir. Thank you, madam. Thank you so much for the exhaustive and pictorial presentation of Professor Shah Manzoor Alam. I think who else can better say about Shah Manzoor Alam rather than you, madam? And it has been presented through your PPT as well as your lecture. Thank you so much, madam. Now, may I request the guest of honors to please give a brief about your what we call as introduction, or we can say that your remarks. First, may I now invite Professor Anita Pandey.
Yes, sir. Good afternoon.
Yeah, please, madam, please go ahead.
Okay. I'm Anita Pandey. I am a professor in Department of Geography, Kumaon University, Nainital. I'm teaching here since 1999. And before that, I did my PhD from the same university. And after that, I also kept my school scientist stay here. And I also worked in GB Pant Institute of Himalayan Environment and Development as postdoctoral fellow. And currently I'm acting as professor in the Department of Geography. At the very outset, let me express my sincere appreciation for the honor I have been given to speak on this occasion for celebrating the contribution in geography under the theme of the founders and makers of modern geography in India. And I would also like to congratulate all professors, colleagues, friends, and students who are part of this grand academic event of geography fraternity. I'm sure everyone enjoyed the deliberations of respected speakers. The deliberations focused on legendary geographers of Osmania University made by Professor Markande and Professor Nagia are very inspiring and enlightening for all of us, and especially for the students of coming generations. It was a pleasure to listen the speakers, Professor Markande and Professor Nagia, who are among eminent geographers of India and scholars of international repute. The deliberations about the beginner geographers of Osmania University was most stimulating and insightful. I would like to compliment Professor Markande and Professor Nagia on their deliberations. I'm sure these deliberations will be proved very relevant for enhancing geography subject. And I would also like to extend my thanks to both speakers, Professor Markande and Professor Nagia, for their informative deliberations. Thank you.
Thank you, madam. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Now, may I request Professor Seema Jalan to please give her comments?
Thank you so much, Professor Sri Nagesh. Am I audible?
Yeah, madam.
Very good afternoon and heartiest greetings to the August House. It is indeed a privilege and an honor for me to be a part of this illustrious galaxy of veteran geographers today through this online lecture series on founders and makers of modern geography in India. It is a cherished opportunity to be a part of this celebration, rightly called by Professor Pandey as a celebration. It is, yes, a celebration of the rich journey of Indian geography as a discipline. It is a celebration of the untiring visionary efforts of our parent geographers who laid the sound foundation of Indian geography. I also view this lecture series as a very meaningful and creative amalgamation of knowledge and emotions. As we could see, I really call it meaningful as it is different in letter and spirit from a routine academic event. It is a fond tribute to our founder generations, full of emotions and nostalgia for them and their successors. It will go a long way in developing a close bonding across the generations, across the country. It is a blissful opportunity for the present generation to learn and be inspired by a rich legacy. This series of events also makes us reflect upon how far we have come and what are the directions for the future. The challenges are loud and manifold before the contemporary geographers. Today we have challenges both in terms of methodology as well as the philosophy of the discipline. We also face challenges to successfully demonstrate the application of geographical knowledge and tools for judicious planning and sustainable development of resources and amelioration of the spatio-stratal disparities across the country. Sister sciences have occupied central positions in the planning and development authorities of the country. We have the challenge to carve out an effective role for ourselves among the decision makers. During the past 1.5 years, during the COVID pandemic, suddenly the ways and means of communication were transformed. I am happy to note that this online event being organized under the dynamic leadership of Professor Singh has testimonized how readily and successfully Indian geographers have embraced and utilized the strengths of new technological interventions. Professor Devendra Prasad Singh and his team have remarkably employed the online communication technology to create an event which reverses across space and time. In every single episode, almost every month, they have brought together 2 to 3 generations of geographers across the length and breadth of the country on one platform, introducing them to the leading centers of geographical learning one by one. Taking his efforts forward, I would like to suggest here that let us utilize this technology to develop an online inter-institutional knowledge network for sharing our expertise and resources and strengthening the discipline in the country as a whole. I congratulate the entire team of Department of Geography and Geoinformatics, Osmania University, Hyderabad, for organizing this part of the series in such a wonderful manner under the vibrant leadership of Professor B. Srinagesh. I also express my deep sense of gratitude to respected Professor Sudesh Nangia and Professor Kalpana Markande for sailing us through the journey of development of geography as a discipline and as an institution in not only Osmania University, but also Delhi University and many other centers with their very informative, enlightening and inspiring discourses. Contributions of each of these noted geographers, Professor Syed Ahmad, Professor C.G. Smith, Mr. B.N. Chaturvedi, Professor V.L.S. Prakasha Rao, and Professor Shah Manzoor Alam are a learning for the present generation, reinforcing the fact that the responsibility of a geographer goes far, far beyond just theoretical teaching and research. We are entrusted with the responsibility to not only educate, but also inculcate human values and awareness towards the issues. Not only serve, but also build the institutions, not only research, but to resolve, provide solutions to the society for sustainable and inclusive development, leading to an optimum quality of life. I once again congratulate the organizers for organizing this event very successfully, and I express my heartfelt gratitude for giving me this opportunity to be a part of it. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you for wonderful remarks about the this session. Now, may I request Preeti Rekha Das Patnaik to please give your remarks, ma'am.
Well, a very good evening to one and all. It is indeed a proud privilege for getting an opportunity to be associated with the 16th episode of online lecture series on founders and makers of modern geography in India. At the outset, I must express my heartfelt thanks and deep sense of gratitude to Professor A. Balakishan, Professor Ashok Kumar Lonawat, Professor Devendra Prasad Singh, Dr. Rameshwar Prasad Singh, and the whole team who have organized this online lecture series for months together. Well, esteemed Chief Guest Professor M.S. Gill, former Professor Head Department of Geography, Punjabi University, Patiala, Honorable President Professor Ashok D. Hanjagi, Professor and Chairman Department of Geography, Bangalore University, Karnataka, Revered Convener Professor B. Srinagesh, Professor and Head Department of Geography, and Geoinformatics, Osmania University, Hyderabad. Esteemed speaker, Professor Kalpana Markandi, Madam, former professor and head Department of Geography and Geoinformatics, Osmania University, Hyderabad. Revered speaker, Professor Sudesh Nangia, Madam, former professor and head UGC Emeritus Fellow, CSRD JNU, New Delhi, and former President Nagi, Google Vachaspati of Nagi. Lastly, respected today's guest of honor, Dr. A. Mohan Babu, Professor Anita Pandey, Professor Shima Jalan, Professor Ashish Sarkar sir. Respected all dignitaries and invitees. In fact, words fail to express my feelings how after what I learned from today's lecture from Madam Kalpana and Madam Sudesh Nangia. This online lecture series has become a very good way of giving detailed and information about our former professors who have not only built the institution but also built on most of us. Their contributions are so much that this lecture series can never fulfill. But coming to Kalpana Madam's lecture, she gave a very vivid and lecture on C.G. Smith sir. First he talked about Syed Ahmad sir, then C.G. Smith sir, then also she talked about B. and Chaturvedi sir. All of them have contributed a lot in the development of their departments at the cost of their, personal life and professional life. In fact, I'm taken aback by listening to B. N. Chaturvedi ji, who had purchased 3 theodolites from his, from his personal money because due to the paucity of fund, which was a great constraint at that time. And it is also true what she said that in many cases, other departments, they look down geography and they think that we don't deserve to get any fund from the university. And then the geography departments fail to grow and develop. But now things have changed a lot. But still, I must congratulate Madam's lecture on all these 3 professors. Now coming to Professor Manzoor Alam's detailed contributions, who was a legendary geographer, and he was of course associated with V.L.S. and Professor C.D. Deshpande. And I'm again taken aback to know that Nagi was introduced in Osmania University by Professor Shah Manzoor Alam sir. In fact, most of us must not be knowing about this. Thank you, Madam. Thank you for giving such a great information to all of us. Now coming to Professor Nangia Madam's deliberation. In fact, she presented a detailed contributions of Professor V.L.S. Prakasha, which was very informative. And most important, geography fraternity is lost after the demise of Professor Manzoor, V.L. Prakasha sir, who had focused on geography and planning in most of the cases, and he has bridged the gap between traditional and modern geography during his whole period of teaching. And for him, geographers are either exception or rejection. This is what Nangia Madam said about him. And by popular saying, he has motivated, in fact, the students with his, where he has focused on the observation. Due to lack of data, he has convinced his students how to go about the research, even if there is data constraint. However, he has also worked with David Sofer, and who has introduced journal named Analytical Geography. This is also quite interesting because nowadays analytical geography is no more. And he was a dynamic person who has been working on urbanization and regional development planning, computer cartography, etc. Now, with all these, I must thank Madam Kalpana and Madam Sudesh Nangia, who is directly my teacher, that today by their lecture, and we all were elevated, and we learned a lot about these professors who have built Osmania University. And I must also thank all the team members who have been organizing these sort of lectures, because with the help of this, at least some of us are getting chance to know the contributions of many prominent professors who are either no more or still, the old stage. Anyway, thank you very much. I must thank whole team once again for giving me such an opportunity. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, madam. Thank you for your nice words about this session. Now, may I request Professor Ashish Sarkar sir to please give his remark? Professor Ashish Sarkar sir. So please unmute your mic, sir.
Oh, sorry. First of all, thank you organizers for making me one of the guests of honor. I have nothing more to add, whatever other guests of honor have already remarked. 2 or 3 things I must mention here. This COVID pandemic has taken a lot from us, of course, but it has given us a major chance of something else, of accepting some new technologies, this online system. If this thing has not been introduced by force, by the academic community throughout the world, I think this kind of lectures could not have been arranged more successfully than this. In different parts of our country, in different universities, there were people like this who devoted everything of their life for the betterment of this subject, for the establishment of the department. So, my pranam to all those persons. I have attended before this kind of lectures, but today's lectures were simply excellent. Thanks to Kalpana ji and Sudesh Nangia ji. About the persons in our student days, we have heard the names of V.L.S. Prakasha Rao, Professor Manzoor Alam, B.N. Chaturvedi, and Syed Ahmad. I cannot remember whether I have heard the name of Professor C.G. Smith. They all have remarkable contributions to the setting up the Department of Geography in Osmania University. What is more interesting is that at that time, geography was always associated with either cartography, micro-level studies, area studies, and so on. So this thing we have not, we have accustomed today, we have taken up today digital technologies and other things, of course, but a real field study does not have any other comparison. We need this intensive studies, particularly from the viewpoint of social dynamics. So, thank you everybody. Good evening to all of you, and especially thank all the team members of today's lectures. And I wish all the best for the Osmania University. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir, for your nice words. Now, may I request M. Mohan Babu to please give his remarks.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much for the warm welcome. I'll introduce myself. I am Dr. M. Mohan Babu. I work with Indian Revenue Service Income Tax. Presently, I'm working with the Enforcement Directorate, Chennai. And I feel privileged to be part of this August group. And I happened to meet so many senior geographers and especially my own teachers. Professor Srinagesh was my teacher, Kalpana Madam and Ashok Lonavat sir, Balkishan sir. I'm very happy to be amongst all of you, and especially Kalpana Madam and Nangia Madam. The detailed account of the legendary geographers, really amazing. Actually, to be frank, joining government service now, there is some kind of disconnect with the geography from the department, even though Kalpana madam happens to be sending me the academic related news and gives me opportunity to be participating in such meetings. And especially today, knowing about the legendary geographers from Osmania University and their contributions in terms of the journals they started and the colleges, the department they have been introduced in different colleges, and especially Women's College, where I used to, I worked as academic consultant, and even Maulana Azad National Urdu University. I was for a brief period connected with that university before joining civil services. And especially V.L.S. Prakasha sir and also Alam sir, about these legendary geographers. I've been listening about them from my own teachers like Professor Gita Reddigar, who was my PhD guide, and also Kalpana madam. And today, such a detailed account, including their works, contributions, both academic as well as research, and especially the photographs, madam, in the slides. It's really amazing the kind of work they have done for the geography department, especially in India, and they are associated with Osmania University. Now I feel like I'm a proud student of Osmania University and especially geography department. And thanks to the organizers and DP Singh sir, especially for like this is I think 16th episode of the lecture series in geography about modern and modern geography, founders of modern geography. And looking forward to participate such lecture series in future. And once again, I thank you, all of you, and I'm proud to be part of this program. Thank you, sir. Thank you so very much.
Thank you, Mohan, for nice words, because you have been always very hard worker, and you have shown and you have made department really proud. And being a civil servant, it is always a proud moment for each and every teacher who has been associated with you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Now, may I request, humbly request our chief guest of today, Professor M.S. Gill, sir, to please give your valuable remarks to this session. Over to you, sir.
First of all, it's coming now?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
I say I feel honored to be part of this seminar or discussion. Thanks to Professor D.P. Singh and his team for organizing such challenging and wonderful seminars. The two lectures by Professor Nagia and Professor Kalpana Markande, they perhaps give a lot of information about these two scholars, Professor V.L.S. Prakasha and Shah, Professor Shah Manzoor Alamji. Professor Managia said that Professor V.L.S. Prakasha was very simple. Yes, I heard from one of his colleagues who was then at Chandigarh. He said that he used to wear just most of the time chappal, and he's told something else also, that during his time there, he never asked some peon or other to come to his room. He'll move to clerk's room to dictate letters, to go to teacher's room to discuss something. So with the result, other teachers also started doing the same thing. So I mentioned this because a great historian, E.H. Carr, said, before studying any history book, read the historian. So before studying any book in geography, read the geographer first. So from the discussion by Madam Markande and Madam Sudesh Nagia ji, I find that both the scholar was very ethical, high ethical standards. Naturally, whatever they did was to be great contribution, whether at Osmania or at Delhi or elsewhere. And same was said, he said about Professor Shah Manzoor Alam, a cartographer. He was there as a cartographer in Delhi University, then at Chandigarh. He said, sometimes Professor Shah Manzoor Alam will discuss cartography with him. So this is, I think, what sort of persons we are, ethical standards we have got. That's equally important than our degrees. So I congratulate the team organizing this, but I'll also just to younger generation. Around the time globalization was launched, there appeared a book, The End of Geography. There also appeared a book, The End of History. There also appeared another book, Clash of Civilizations. All when globalization was launched, we need to understand the present political discourses in terms of that. If End of Geography comes by O'Brien, then what is the position now? It's not what is where, this is not geography. We need to question discourses, focus on discourses, conceptual and other things. So what the corporates are doing globally, they can buy anything anywhere. They can stock anything anywhere. So I think geographers need to come. It is perhaps anybody who is aged like to preach, you will say no. But geography and history both face challenge. They don't accept it's end of history. And they don't accept it's end of geography. So I hope younger generations and active people like you will also sometime focus on these things also. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. Now we'll move on to the next aspect. That is, I request the technical cell leader and the most important person of the organizing team, Dr. Ambarish Kumar Rai, for if any announcements are there. Dr. Ambarish Rai, you can please announce if anything is there from your side. Thank you, Lois sir. Now it's time to have a feedback from our participants. May I request any two participants to give their comments?
Hello.
Yeah.
Hello. राजधानी करला फ्रॉम स्टेट यूनिवर्सिटी कैलिफोर्निया से जुड़ी है, उनका थोड़ा सा फीडबैक लेना जरूरी है। राजधानी करला, वो बलेश्वर ठाकुर की पतोहू है, आई हुई इस ग्रुप में, उनसे थोड़ा सा फीडबैक लेना। राजधानी करला मैडम, थोड़ा सा अपना फीडबैक दें। राजधानी करला मैडम, लिसन टू मी।
Rajrani Kalra madam, are you there? I think she is not there, sir. So may I request our senior Professor Sri Kumar Chaturvedi sir to please give his comments.
Thank you, Professor. So when I got a request from Professor Devendra Prasad Singh a couple of days back that this sort of an episode are being organized, and we are tracing the, basically the history of geography in India, I felt extremely happy for this thoughtful organization. In fact, we are in the eve of 100 years of geography, I think, in India. That is coming in 24, in the 23rd and 24. If we start, if we look or begin our counting from the geography teaching when the University, the Aligarh Muslim University, it's an occasion to reflect. In fact, the lectures which has been delivered by Professor Sudesh Nangia and Professor Kalpana Markandeya are extremely good, and what is called that it is not only informative, but it also provides the insights of their work. Now, whatever we say, the history is being played in the geographical arena. Some time back, there was a book came, not the end of civilization, but the prisoners of geography. Even the war today, which we are seeing in the Ukraine, it also has a geographical dimension to explain. Unfortunately, we, in fact, could not really, take the advantage of the advantage which you get from the technology, and also the rich conceptual foundation which has been laid by our founders and, the makers of geography yesteryears. We are not planners, as Professor Rao has repeatedly told, and, Professor Sundaram and Professor Misra, they also told. We are geographers, but the planning remains incomplete without the geographic dimension. To present it forcefully, to present it being at par with the other disciplines, those who contribute in planning, like economics or the planners or the physical planners, all the statisticians, that itself is a very important thing, which often we miss. We miss the opportunity in the sense that we try to play the second fiddle of the other subjects, which our founders and makers of geography never played. They talked in equal terms. Sometimes we get totally amount. In fact, with the technological intervention, the technological development, and we may not be in a position to really observe the technological development which has taken place and use the technology for the development of a subject. That's true, because our universities across the India are living in different levels. the resources of the departments of all, at the India level, if you try to look into it, there are disparities. It is not that all the departments are equally equipped with the resources, both the financially and the human-wise. Given this sort of a differentiation or the inequality in the resource distributions, there comes a sort of a role where the inter-university exchange becomes extremely important. And given today's advantage of this online interaction, I'll be suggesting, because all the senior professors are here, to really strengthen that exchange. We know there are problems. When you try to move from one university to another university, we see the problems. If we really trace back, both these senior professors like Professor Manzoor Alam and Professor Rao, they are moving from one place to another. It is not that they are moving just for a job. They have the job. They are moving actually with a commitment to the subject. They're trying to learn what is happening in the different parts of the India, assimilate them, and apply them. Now, this precisely is the important, for each of our young geographers. And with the advantage of the technological development today, and what is called the positive side of the pandemic, which I think Professor Ashish Sharkar was mentioning, that to have this exchange of ideas across the country, to use this platform more forcefully is very important. Lastly, I thank Professor Devendra Singh, Prasad Singh, and the team for organizing such a beautiful and wonderful event, which actually is very learning. I was learning. It's a learning process for all of us, those who are participating. It is not only the knowing the senior professors and the persons, but also understanding their work, the depth of the work, the way they are moving, the way they are grooming the students, and where they are putting the subjects, placing the subjects in a sort of a the larger in the societal in the platform. That's extremely important. So thank you, Professor Devendra, and thank you all the senior professors, and thank the organizers for giving this opportunity. Thank you all.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. Now, may I request any one participant to please give your comments? Anyone?
Sadharan Chaudhary should give his remark. Professor Sadharan Chaudhary.
Yeah, very nice to speak on such a beautiful talk on Manzoor Alam sir and other dignitaries, especially Suresh Nangya, ma'am, and Kalpana Markandeji, and Sukumar Chattopadhyay. I like very much all the remarks you have noticed on it. This platform is very nice, initiated by Professor Devenderji, and I think all the dignitaries of India, definitely they benefited by these activities, and hope this will go along with all the fellow in these countries. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for your short and sweet remarks. Now it's time to, for our Dr. Devendra Singh sir for an appeal for all the participants for this founders and makers of modern geographers affiliation. Sir, over to you, sir.
Thank you very much, Professor.
Thank you. Goodbye. Thank you. Goodbye.
Good evening to all the contemporary Indian geographers who are present on the screen. I have only one appeal to our speakers of the day and speakers of previous episode, that please hand over your write-ups in chapter form so that we may bring out the first 4 volumes of this episode very soon. I have only one appeal to our speakers. Thank you, sir, very much.
Thank you, sir. Now it's time for our address for our president of this session. I request Professor Ashok Manjagi, sir, to please deliver his presidential address. Over to you, sir.
Good evening, the dignitaries, chief guests of this function or event, the guest of honor, the organizing team, also the dignitaries who have participated in this program. Indeed, it is a great occasion to listen to heroes of the geography, especially in the area of Andhra Pradesh, that to Osmania University. First of all, let me congratulate the team organizers and all the professors.
I think there is a connectivity issue with Anjagi, sir. We'll just wait. Anjagi, sir, please unmute your mic, sir.
Is it audible?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Please go ahead, sir.
Okay, it's a great occasion that you have done a very good decision you have taken. And apart from that, let me also congratulate you all for completing almost 4 decades of geography inception in Osmania University. Very successfully you are completing. Really, it's a great opportunity to all of us to know and understand the contribution made by the legendaries, icons of the geography field. Indeed, the 2 legendaries, Professor Rao and Professor Alam, and I knew very little, but today I used to do more contribution by them. It speaks about the strength of the geography that was earlier in a few decades. We cannot simply remember them. We cannot just say that they have contributed, but it's our responsibility to carry forward. Whatever the base has been laid down by them has to be continued. So a great responsibility is there on the young generation or the professors who are working at present. These days, geography is really a very good discipline, is a branch of earth science, which includes very essential services, ecosystem services, the land, water, air. All these components come under purview of the geography subject. Most of us are simply, we are overviewing the geography. We are not going into the depth. We are not exactly understanding the conceptual understanding and analysis part and parts are missing in these days. As we are in the 21st century digital era, and especially Hyderabad and Bangalore, we are staying in the IT hub, but we are not competing with the other disciplines. Geography nowadays is very essential if we inculcate the happenings at the present level. If you think about remote sensing, the geographical information systems, the cartography, digital cartography, surveying, all the geospatial technologies, we are not inculcating and teaching them in a proper way. So here geographical knowledge, geographical information has to be diffused in all the direction, even rural areas. And the department themselves have to be strong enough with withstand and face the present day scenario, because most of the disciplines are closing down. In this direction, we all need to work, because now National Education 2020 come into force. So we have so many things to be included in a geography. And the responsibility we have to shoulder, the most of the universities, they are performing very poorly, especially in South India. Few states, including Karnataka state, Kerala, Tamil Nadu, Andhra Pradesh, Telangana, most of these states, they don't have more post-graduations in the universities. At the same time, undergraduate programs are also almost closed down. If such a scenario is existed, the geography cannot have a very good roots. Here, what is essential is the roots are to be established very perfectly. In that direction, whatever the great icons of geography have laid down the strong foundations. They had a very good direction. They had a very good clear-cut goals. They had a dedications, and they have contributed more and more, upon which we are still, depending. But we are not adding any colors to it. So it's a great opportunity for us to collectively come together, assess ourselves, analyze ourselves, where we are lagging behind, what are to be done, how the subjects, discipline has to be taken forward. And updation of the knowledge nowadays has to be done very regularly. It doesn't mean that only conferences like this should be attended. Apart hands-on experiences, trainings, capacity building programs are to be conducted more and more in the field of geography. As per my knowledge goes, geography is one of the frontline discipline which we can serve to the nation in a planning and even in water resource management, even in soil management, forest monitoring, disaster management, and many more areas we are capable to serve only when we have to equip, only when we equip in a proper way. So even sustainable development goals, if you look at them, more number of SDGs are directly or indirectly related to the earth science, that is geography. So in that direction, the global initiatives and the environmental programs and local initiatives are to be very seriously understood, comprehended, and we have to be more and more practical. And we have to, instead of teaching within the four walls, we need to go out. We need to see how the environment, how the landscape, terrain looks like, how it is changing over the time. All these things, I think the great geographers have written very good books. I'm very, very happy with some of the great geographers from India. They have not only added a lot of strength to their own university where they served, they also extended their services to the whole India, even they have gone beyond overseas. And their work is highly rememberable. In this direction, some of the chief guests like Kalpana Markande and Sudesh Nangia, they have spoken very nicely about the 5 great geographers who have served in Osmania University, Professor V.L.S. Prakash Rao and Professor Manzoor Alam, we heard their names, but we have not got any opportunity to meet them in person. But however, his son, the Rao's son, is very closely associated with me, and he has been to many times. In that direction, at least I have a very close relation with Prakash Rao. I think with this, I would like to conclude saying that the 16th episode of the lecture series, that to remembering, understanding, and realizing the contribution of our great heroes of geography. You have done a great thing. You have invited me as a president. I'm really happy. And such a program have to be continued, and they have to be carried forward so that we can enhance our knowledge. We can inculcate more information. Then we can build geography. The foundation is already there. Only building. Our job is so easy because our great heroes have strongly made a foundation. Only our job is to build and take it in a certain height. So we have to.
Hello, sir. Can I speak? I'm second son of Professor V.L.S. Prakash Rao. I'm talking to you from New Zealand. I live in New Zealand. It's heartwarming and nice to hear such a seminar. And thank you all
Honoring my father.
honoring the yesteryear professors of geography. And yes, I've shared a lot during the journey. We all children, but not knowing we were the
Close.
not knowing we were
The magnanimity.
the children of such a great personality. We thank you all. You're doing a great job. Carry on the geography in India. Thank you, sir. Thank you, everybody. Me and my wife are here.
Pranam to everybody.
Everybody.
We
It's
are
really honored to be part of this kind of a seminar.
Thank you.
Thank you. It's a very emotional journey. My sister was also watching from Australia. Of course, my elder brother was there, Radha Swami. It was really very heartwarming, and thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you,
one
sir.
and all.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for your nice words. Now it's the
Nice
we
to
are
see
in
you
the
on screen.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir.
Welcome.
Now we are on the last leg of our program.
Yeah.
May I now request Ashok Kumar Lonawat to please give his vote of thanks.
Thank you, Professor Sri Nagesh. I take privilege to propose vote of thanks on the occasion of 16th episode of online lecture series on founders and makers of modern geography in India with respect to the lecture on founders of modern geography in Osmania University, Hyderabad today. First, I thank Professor C. B. Sri Nagesh for introducing the participants and also for conducting the procedures of the conference. I thank Professor A. Balkishan sir for giving his welcome address. I thank the first speaker, Professor Kalpana Markande madam, for briefing about the contribution of first four heads of the Department of Geography, Osmania University. That is Mr. Syed Ahmad, Mr. C.G. Smith, Mr. B.N. Chaturvedi, and Professor V.L.S. Prakash Rao. I thank second speaker, Professor Sudesh Nangia Madam, for highlighting and briefing about great contribution of Professor V.L.S. Prakash Rao towards the development of geography, not only in Osmania University, but also throughout India. Madam has spoke about the great work done by Professor V.L.S. Prakash Rao. I again thank Professor Kalpana Markande Madam for highlighting and briefing about the contribution and work done by Professor Manzoor Alam sir. And I thank Professor Seema Jalan Madam, Professor Anita Pandey Madam, Professor Preeti Rekha Deshmukh Nayak Madam, Professor Ashish Sarkar sir, Dr. Mohan Babu for giving their view on conducting series conferences on founders and makers of modern geography in India, and also about the contribution of these great personalities who have contributed for establishment of geography department at Osmania University, Hyderabad. Next, I thank Professor M.S. Gill sir for giving his valuable remarks as chief guest about the conference and contributions of great geographers like V.L.S. Prakash Rao and others, and also for giving his valuable suggestion for younger generation. I thank the organizers for taking up a great activity by conducting such valuable conferences, bringing limelight about the contribution of legend personalities in geography in India, which would be very useful for present generation. I thank Sai Kumar Chattopadhyay sir giving his deep insight, feedback about the conference and suggestions. I thank Professor Sharadanand Chowdhury sir for giving his feedback about the conference. I thank Professor Ashok Hanjagi sir for giving his presidential remarks about the conference and contribution of legendary professors who have contributed in a big way in the field of geography in Osmania University, Hyderabad, and also for giving his concerns, views about the geography and its importance with relevance to the present scenario. Also thank son of Professor V.L.S. Prakash Rao sir for joining the conference. At the outset, I thank all the participants who have present and attended this online conference. Last but not least, I thank from the bottom of my heart Professor Devendra Prasad Singh sir, Dr. Rameshwar Prasad Singh sir for giving me opportunity to propose vote of thanks on this great occasion. Thank you one and all. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Professor Ashok, for a wonderful vote of thanks. As said, we are really thankful to Dr. Devendra Prasad sir for making this a point that the stalwarts of Osmania University, Professor V.L.S. Prakash Rao sir and Professor Shah Manzoor Alam, because their contribution to the Indian geography has been immense. And I really thank the speakers, especially Professor Sudesh Nangia Madam and Professor Kalpana Madam, for bringing out such a wonderful insights, going through the insights of the works of these two great personalities. I thank the both sons of Professor V.L.S. Prakash Rao sir, Raghav Swami sir and his younger brother, to being present here and making it a point how important this session is. Thank you. Now may I seek permission from the chair of the session to end this 16th episode of the founders and makers of modern geographers of India. May I, sir? May I ask the chairman to end this session? Hello, Chairman sir. Hello, Chairman sir, may I end this session?
Perhaps he has lost the connection. So
Okay,
take
sir.
your own decision.
Yeah. So I once again thank one and all for being there for this session and making it a success. Thank you very much. Go to DP session.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Thanks, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you
sir.
all of you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much.
राजधानी करला मैडम आपको भी धन्यवाद जो आप यूएसए से जुड़ी हैं.
I'm so sorry I missed when you guys called me to speak up. But I really enjoyed the session and